Hi everybody, today I'm going to be reviewing two different waistcoat style corsets from Dracula Clothing. Right now I'm wearing the shoulder corset, and in a couple of minutes I will show you the apocalyptic corset. And there are subtle differences between the two, which I'll get into in a little bit. But first, let's show it at all angles. So this is the shoulder corset. Here's the front, the side, my hair is stuck, the back, and the other side. So this is obviously not part of Dracula Clothing's extreme waist line. It has a very gentle waist reduction, even though this corset was actually laced on a wasp waist mannequin to make it look a little bit curvier. That's why I wanted to test it out and see how it fit for myself. So the center front here is just 10.5 inches. At the princess seam right here, it is 10 inches, and that's pretty well distributed above and below the waist. 5 inches above, 5 inches below. You can see that this actually has little points that it looks more like a men's waistcoat that has the little like peaks at the bottom here. I'm blanking on what they're actually called at the moment, but these little peaks are unsupported. The bones don't go straight down into them, so they don't add any extra support underneath the belly or anything like that. At the side seam here, it is 12 inches, and in the center back, how do I even do this? At the center back, it is 21.5 inches long. In terms of the circumferential measurements, today I'm wearing a size 24, and when I measured it at the waistline, it did indeed measure 24 inches. At the underbust here, going straight back, this is 27 inches, so it has a 3-inch rib spring. I am more comfortable with closer to a 30-inch underbust, so that is why I'm wearing this with a rather large lacing gap in the back. Even though my waistline is considerably more squishy, I can go down a bit more in the waistline here. And at the high hip, it is 31 inches, so it has a 7-inch high hip spring. And like I said before, I would definitely consider this a slim silhouette. I would not consider this part of their extreme waistline. You cannot do tight lacing in this. This is mostly for fashion purposes, or if you have some sort of back strain or shoulder strain, you need your shoulders pulled back. This will offer support, but not much of a waist reduction at all. The shoulder straps are rather slim, and where they adjust, the buckles are at the very top, right there. So when I'm putting this on, I loosen the straps, I unlace the corset, and I'll show you how I put it on. Even though the laces that come in this corset are theoretically quite long, it is a very long back with a lot of grommets, and so I don't have quite enough lace to get myself in and out of this corset super comfortably and easily. I sort of have to bend the bones by hunching my back in order to get this corset on so I can clasp the busk. And I also need a lot of shoulder mobility in order to lace up a back quite this high. Now this arm is quite flexible. This arm is less so. So I do this arm to lace up the top, and I use this arm to lace up the bottom. And that is with or without the shoulder straps, but I loosen the straps deliberately, and then I get the waistline to a comfortable reduction, and then I look in the mirror and I adjust the straps to my preferred tightness. So if you have some sort of shoulder impingement, or if you have a shoulder injury where you don't have a lot of mobility, you might find that this corset, although it looks to be something that might help support the shoulders, it actually is a little bit difficult to get into and out of. So you might need help from another person in order to use this corset effectively. And this is the gold brocade apocalyptic corset. So here's the front, the side, the back, and the other side. So this one I had such high hopes for, but I know that I tend not to be very subjective. I try not to inject my own opinion and sway your opinion of different corsets. I try to have the The cut and the quality speak for themselves. But I was hoping that this one would be a little bit easier to get into. I was hoping that it would be a little bit easier to adjust, because the adjustments for the straps are actually right here. So very easy to reach, and the wider shoulder straps tends to distribute a little bit more of that tension. Also, I was really looking forward to the little collar here that pops up. There's a lot of really cute stylistic things like the double buckle, and I was hoping that it would sweep nicely over the hip, give more support to the hip, and be kind of like a true long line. However, this corset may be well suited to a different body type, but it is really not well fitted to mine. So I'll get into the measurements, and then I'll talk about what I was hoping for and what actually ended up happening. The center front here is 13.5 inches, which is why I thought it would be a true long line corset. At the princess seam here, from underneath the bust to the top of the lap here, is 11 inches. I would say that about 7 are from the waist up, and 4 are from the waist down. At the side seam here, it's 12 inches, and you might be thinking, well, the other corset was 12 inches on the side seam as well. But this one, the arm side starts a little bit lower, and so it goes a little bit lower on the hip. So even though the absolute length is the same between both waistcoat corsets, this one is designed to be a little bit lower on the hip, but also lower in the arm as well. And in the center back, it is 22 inches. And for these circumferential measurements, today I'm wearing a size 24, and it did measure true at the waistline. The underbust measured 28 inches, so it has a 4-inch rib spring. And then the bottom measured 31 inches, so it has a 7-inch hip spring. Unfortunately, the hips were a little bit asymmetric. So on the left side, it measured 15 inches from the center front to the center back here. And on the right side, it measured 16 inches, which is why the busk here is fairly up and down. It's fairly vertical, and it's not appearing to twist on my body. However, when you get to the back, this side is almost to my tailbone, and this side stops a little bit short, so that the entire corset slants a little bit in this direction. And that is due to the asymmetry of the corset. Now, I do have some hip asymmetry as well. Unfortunately, my asymmetry does not match up well with the corset's asymmetry. I would have preferred if the left side of this corset was a little bit larger, the right side was a little bit smaller, but it ended up being the opposite. So my body asymmetry, along with this corset, the manufacturing flaw, ended up exacerbating the situation as opposed to fixing it. So some of the reasons that I had high hopes for this corset was due to the low arm size. So my shoulders are able to fully relax in this corset. I can put them down. I'm not hunching up or anything. Unfortunately, because of the way that this is patterned, where it's fixed at the back and it comes towards the front and it can be adjusted in the front, it seems to encourage me to round my shoulders a little bit more. I try to put my shoulders back, and the fabric is actually blocking me from doing so. When I was doing the twirl, you could notice that I tried to put my arms back like that, and it ended up putting quite a lot of pressure in the front of my sternum here because the fabric is stretching. So this is kind of the opposite that I would want for somebody who is using a waistcoat corset to support their shoulders and pull them back and improve the posture as opposed to worsening it. And like I had mentioned before, I was hoping that it came down a little bit lower over the hips, that it curved nicely over the hips, so that people who have posture and shoulder issues in addition to hip issues might get a little bit more support here. Unfortunately, because the hip spring is so small, it's such a gentle silhouette, it ends up pushing into my hip bones uncomfortably as opposed to supporting. So if I could go back, I would definitely order a size up. I would order a size 26. Right now I'm wearing a size 24, and I'm wearing it at 27 inches, so I'm only having 1 inch waist reduction in this corset. Now, if you are wearing a corset for support and not waist reduction, you know, that's your prerogative. You might actually like something like that. But for me, I'm feeling the pressure on my ribs and my hips. which is the opposite of what I actually wanted. I wanted more support for my shoulders and my waist, and I feel like I'm less supported in these areas. Another thing was I think the straps are just a little bit coming too forward in the front here. I know that I have a broad rib cage, I have wide set breasts, so this might fit somebody else quite nicely, but I feel like this is sort of pushing everything forward. Now, that might be a stylistic choice. This might be a garment that is supposed to be cleavage forming, but that is personally not what I am looking for. I have enough, thank you very much. And one last little bugaboo, even though it can be easily changed, is by default the laces, the bunny ears, are way up, a little bit above my underbust line, in fact. Now, that might be the true center of the center back of this corset because it is so long. And I will admit that when I'm loosening it, the underbust is the part of the corset that fits the least well for me. My rib cage wants another like 3 inches at least. So being able to loosen this area helped me to get this on a little bit more easily. However, the point of control is here and my waistline is down here. So this again points to a garment that is not designed for waist reduction. It is designed simply for fashion. Between the two corsets, if you are looking for something for support, I think this shoulder corset is going to work better than the apocalyptic corset. However, I have tried other waistcoat corsets in the past that have more adjustable straps. They are laced up with 2 sets of laces, one for the bottom and one for the shoulders. There are lots of ways to go around this. So if you are looking for a therapeutic or supportive corset, you have other options available. So let's go to the tabletop portion of this review and I can show you the other details of this. All right, here is the shoulder corset with the writing colorway laid flat. And for the materials, it's 2 main layers. The fashion fabric is this printed satin. This is a polyester-based satin. And the inside lining here, which is also the strength fabric, is cotton twill. And here's the apocalyptic corset, which also has 2 layers of fabric. The fashion fabric is this gold and black brocade, which is a little bit thicker than the satin. And the inside is black cotton twill as well. And here is what the label looks like. So it is under the armpit, and you can see the size 24, Dracula Clothing. There is no cleaning instructions, no content label, and no place of manufacture. And the Dracula Clothing label in the apocalyptic corset, it goes horizontally as opposed to like the long way. It's also at the arm side here, size 24. Again, no cleaning instructions, no content, no place of manufacture. This is assembled together using the welt seam method, and it's single boned on the seams here. So they're using the seam allowances of the cotton twill as the boning channels as well. This has a 5-panel pattern, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 10 panels total on each side. And the shoulder straps are actually not a separate piece of fabric. This actually extends from panel 3 all the way up and around and attaches to panel 5 here. So it is a little bit more wasteful on fabric, but it's really nice that you don't have seams all over the place. So if I undo one of the shoulder straps here so that you can see the shape of it, basically you can see that panel 3 goes kind of up and at an angle like that. So here's a close-up of the shoulder strap. So you can see that the adjustment point is closer to the back of the shoulder, and you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 grommets here for adjustment. Each of these grommets are about 1 inch apart. So between the shoulders here, the apocalyptic corset is much broader. This is 13 inches. And when you compare that to the shoulder corset here, you can see how much more narrow this is. So the shoulder corset is better at pulling the shoulders back, and this is only less than 5 inches wide at the back here, and only panel 5 is extending up this far to meet the shoulder straps. So you can see why the apocalyptic corset doesn't pull the shoulders back. It actually, the bones coming up here makes my shoulders hunch a little bit more forward because of the way that this one is patterned. And there's a seam right at the top of the shoulders here. So this is a 6th pattern piece here for the front of the shoulder here, and you can see that it also has a collar at the top. So you can see that on the website it looked really cool. I was really looking forward to trying this, but the fit unfortunately isn't right for me. Another stylistic choice, this has 2 buckles right at the front here. That's why it's so easy to adjust the fit of the shoulders in this particular corset. Unfortunately, it's more aesthetic and less supportive. This also has only 3 adjustment points, so it has 2 inches of adjustment, whereas the shoulder corset, like I showed before, had 5 grommets. So you're able to adjust the straps much more. And of course, the straps in the front are much wider as well. So at the narrowest point, it's still more than 3 inches wide here, which is why it was kind of pushing my boobs forward a little bit. Whereas with the other shoulder corset, the straps were only 1 inch wide, and I was very comfortable with the breadth of my chest. I was also expecting the apocalyptic corset to be more comfortable because the arm side is not closed at the bottom. So it should be a little bit more comfortable to keep the arms down, and indeed my arms were down, but I was surprised to find that the shoulder corset here, even though the arm side seems to be a little bit more limiting, it was actually a bit more comfortable for me. So that's the difference in the construction and the pattern between the 2 corsets. As for a waist tape, I tried to see an outline, I tried to feel for one, and I do not think there is a waist tape in this corset. I tried to see and feel for a waist tape in the apocalyptic corset as well, and just like with the shoulder corset, I did not find one, but this is a corset not for tight lacing, so if it's not going to put hardly any reduction or tension on the waistline, then I suppose it doesn't need that reinforcement. The binding is made from bias strips of black satin, and it's machine stitched on both the outside and the inside. On the outside, there's a tiny little top stitch, and on the inside, there is a bit of a bigger seam allowance here. The binding is the same here, so even though it is a brocade, they decided to use a plain black satin binding here, machine stitched on both sides. And there are no garter tabs at the bottom of this corset nor the shoulder corset. And you can also see that there is no Modesty panel in the back of this corset, but there is a small Modesty placket in the front, just like with the shoulder corset, 1/2 inch wide and finished in black twill. And the busk in the front is only 9 inches long and has 4 loops and pins equidistantly spaced. It is a little bit of a heavier duty busk, 3/4 of an inch wide on each side if you don't count the bulk of the fabric there. And you can see that it is quite rigid. The busk in the apocalyptic corset is much longer. It's 12 inches long, and it has 6 loops and pins equidistantly spaced instead of the 4. It is also a heavy duty busk, 3/4 of an inch wide, not including the fabric, and it is very rigid in the front as well. As I said before, it's single boned on the seams here, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are 1/4 inch wide spirals, and you can see that they do strongly attract my magnet here. And in the back here are another 2 1/4 inch wide flat steel bones, and they attract my magnet a little bit less. However, they are relatively rigid. So my guess is that these are stainless steel bones, which are less ferrous and more rigid compared to the white flat steel bones. So 6 on each side, making a total of 12, not including the busk. And this corset also has a total of 12 bones total, 6 on each side, 1, 2, 3, 4 being the 1/4 inch wide spirals here, and another 2 stainless steel bones in the back here, 1/4 inch wide, sandwiching the grommets. And there are a total of 40 grommets in the back of this corset, 20 on each side because it is a very long corset. They are equidistantly spaced, about 1 inch apart. They are size 00 with a small flange around them and finished in silver. On the underside, I was surprised to find that the washes are actually quite nice. The washes are larger than the top hat part of the grommet, which is supposed to be the case because a lot of the tension comes on the back side or the underside of the grommet here, this actually prevents the grommets from ripping out. So that's nice to see. Although once more, I will say that this corset is not for tight lacing. So same type of grommets in this corset as well. Again, 40 of them because the back of this corset is so long, finished in silver, but they hide fairly well with the design of the brocade. And also on the underside here, nice wide washers. There are a few splits, but the laces are abrasion resistant and they're holding in nicely. But again, this is not for tight lacing. And the laces are your standard workhorse, so about 1/4 inch wide, standard black shoelace, difficult to snap or break. But like I said, the back of this corset is very long. And so even if there is a ton of shoelace in here, it's still not a lot to get the lacing gap in the back very wide. So right here at the waistline, I'm able to get it about 5 inches wide, which means that a corset of 3 to 4 inches waist reduction would be able to comfortably get this on and off. I would recommend ordering a size up if you intend to get this corset, and check the rib and the hip springs very carefully as well. And same deal here with the apocalyptic corset as with the shoulder corset before, same type of lacing. When I extend it out as far as it'll go, it gives a lacing gap of about 5 inches here. So the price of the shoulder corset varies depending on the colorway. The satin one with the writing on it here, this was actually on sale when I purchased it. So I purchased it on sale for 32 euros and free worldwide shipping. So that converted to about $39 US. Right now, most of the shoulder corsets that are not in leather, they are around 39 euros, which converts to $47 US, and again, free worldwide shipping. The apocalyptic corset comes in this gold brocade, as well as other different shades of brocade and satin, as well as leather. And so this costs 39 euros, just like the shoulder corset, which converts to about $47 US. If you wanted the leather colorway, this has a markup, it's 65 euros. And this concludes my review of these 2 waistcoat corsets by Dracula Clothing. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned something new. If you did, please remember to click that like button down there, as it helps support this channel and it helps the algorithm do its thing. If you have any comments or questions about these corsets, or if you own your own waistcoat corsets from Dracula Clothing, feel free to leave your questions down below or leave your experiences down below. Thank you all again for watching, and I will see you all next week for another video.